Here we go. All right, so this is an example of one entry in an annotated bibliography that I created. So just keep in mind, this is only one entry. You're going to do 3 entries in total, but it's broken up into 2 sections. So one entry is due Thursday the 16th. The other 2 entries are due Sunday the 19th. So it's split apart. So you see I've formatted this according to MLA guidelines. I have my heading here with my header up here. I have my title. So in this case, I chose to title this Failing Forward, Annotated Bibliography. I called it Failing Forward because that encapsulates the theme of this, the sources in this kind of hypothetical annotated bibliography or research project. You would, of course, come up with your own title that reflects the theme of your sources or the theme of the issue you're looking at. So this right here is component number 1 in the annotated bibliography. This is the publication information for this particular source. Okay, so if I didn't have all of this stuff down here, this is what it would look like in a regular works cited page, right? But an annotated bibliography has this annotation below it. Okay, so this is component 1. Component 2 is this paragraph right here, and this is the brief but detailed summary of this source. Okay, so let me go ahead and read through this. This source should look familiar to you guys. In this essay, Miller and Jurecic focus on the importance that a student's mindset plays in dealing with failure. They begin their essay with an extended example of children building a sandcastle to demonstrate the way children learn from mistakes and setbacks. Miller and Jurecic point out that successful college students tend to view mistakes and setbacks as opportunities for growth and learning. They call these students the learners. Students who are not as successful, on the other hand, view mistakes and setbacks negatively and are often discouraged by them. They call this group of students the knowers. Ultimately, Miller and Jurecic make the case that to learn to write in the way they encourage us to in Habits of the Creative Mind, we must be willing to take risks and to learn from our mistakes. Okay, so that's a brief but detailed summary of that source. So you all remember we read this essay at the start of the summer session on learning from failure. Now this right here is component 3, which is my assessment of this particular source. Okay, so I'm pointing out what has value, and I'm also pointing out any limitations that the source might have. Now, you don't necessarily need to point out if the source has limitations, but if it does, and that's something you want to discuss, then obviously you can address that there. But really, you're pointing out the things that have value in this particular source. Miller and Jurecic don't make an explicit connection to Carol Dweck's concepts of fixed and growth mindsets when they discuss the learners and the knowers. It's unlikely that the authors are unaware of Dweck's work, so not making this connection seems like a missed opportunity. Despite this, their argument is well constructed, and the examples they use are insightful, especially the sandcastle example and the connection they make to Ken Bain's thesis in his book, What the Best College Students Do. Just a side note, y'all should pick this book up. It's incredibly, incredibly helpful. So, right here is where I'm pointing out a limitation. I'm kind of pointing out that Miller and Jurecic, I think, was a missed opportunity by not incorporating Carol Dweck into the conversation when so clearly learners and knowers fit into the growth versus fixed mindsets. I think that was just a little bit of a missed opportunity that could have helped drive their point home a little bit better. But despite this, I still think the argument was well constructed. They have great examples. I'm pointing that out. I point out an example that I think is particularly useful, and the connection to Ken Bain's book I think is very great. All of that is what I find valuable in this particular source. Now, the 4th component is just a brief indication of how I plan to use this particular source. This essay connects very well with Kevin Kelly's short essay, The Virtues of Negative Results, and I plan to tie Miller and Juresik's ideas to Kelly's point about failing forward. That's where my title comes from. Since Miller and Juresik did not draw the parallel to Dweck's work, I will also make that connection clear. So this is just a brief indication of how I plan to use the source. I used to have my students read this brief essay, but since moved on. But anyway, for the sake of example here, I'm pointing out that this particular essay from Miller and Juresik connects very well to Kevin Kelly's short essay. So in this envisioned research project, I would also include Kevin Kelly's Virtues and Negative Results in my discussion. So I'm just indicating how I plan to use that. And then I also point out that I'm going to actually draw that parallel between Miller and Juresik's ideas and Dweck's ideas. Just going to make that point a little bit more explicit. Okay, so all of this right here is approximately 250 words. Now keep in mind, this is only one entry. Okay, so you're going to do this 3 times. One for one source. I misspoke. I'm having a little bit of difficulty here. Sorry, y'all. You're gonna have one entry per source that you have. So you have 3 sources in total. Okay, so keep in mind that 2 of your sources need to come from the library's online databases. Again, I'm going to show you how to do that. You can find the 3rd source just using the good old World Wide Web. However, you'd want to make sure that the source is, of course, credible and relevant. If you decide to use the online databases for all 3 of your sources, that would be great. Okay, well, if you have any questions about this, let me know. I'm happy to talk with you about it, to address any questions. But in the meantime, I'll catch you on the flip-flop.